Before you ask to be loved, ask yourself this: what have you done today to earn your own respect? Because if you do not stand firmly within yourself, no amount of affection from the outside will ever make you feel whole. Love that comes before self-respect becomes dependency. It becomes fear. It becomes a quiet form of weakness disguised as connection. And the mind must be trained to see this truth clearly. Self-respect is the foundation of all strength. Without it, everything else collapses. You can be skilled, talented, even admired, yet still feel empty if you have not learned how to honor yourself. Many people believe strength comes from being chosen, praised, or desired, but this is fragile strength. The moment attention fades, confidence fades with it. A trained mind understands that real strength is internal. It does not rise and fall with opinions. It is built through alignment between what you believe and how you live. BAMS, to respect yourself, means you no longer betray your own values for comfort or approval. Every time you say yes when your inner voice says no, you weaken this foundation. Every time you abandon your standards to keep someone close, you teach your mind that you are not worth protecting. Over time, this creates inner conflict. You begin to doubt yourself. You seek reassurance. You chase love not because you want to share life, but because you are trying to escape your own dissatisfaction. This is not love. This is avoidance. Training the mind starts with honesty. You must observe where you compromise yourself, where you tolerate what drains you, where you remain silent when you should speak. Self-respect is not loud. It is not aggressive. It is quiet discipline. It is the ability to say, this does not align with who I am, and walk away without needing to explain. When the mind is trained this way, it becomes stable. It no longer reacts emotionally to rejection, because rejection no longer defines identity. Many confuse self-respect with ego. Ego demands recognition. Self-respect does not. Ego says, look at me. Self-respect says, I know who I am. One seeks attention, the other maintains integrity. When you operate from ego, love becomes a transaction. When you operate from self-respect, love becomes an offering. This difference changes everything. Means you must understand this clearly. How you treat yourself becomes the standard for how others treat you. If you neglect your boundaries, others will cross them. If you accept inconsistency, others will give you uncertainty. Not because people are cruel, but because energy follows permission. A mind without self-respect gives permission to be diminished. A mind trained in self-respect does not argue, beg, or convince. It simply chooses better. Self-respect is built through small, consistent acts of discipline, keeping your word to yourself, taking responsibility for your emotions instead of blaming others, choosing growth over comfort when no one is watching. Each time you do what is right rather than what is easy, you reinforce trust within yourself. This inner trust is powerful. It creates calm. It creates patience. It creates an unshakable presence. People feel it before you speak. When you respect yourself, you stop chasing love to feel valuable. You no longer measure your worth by messages, attention, or validation. You understand that love should complement your life, not complete it. This shift changes your relationships entirely. You become selective, not fearful. You choose connection based on alignment, not loneliness. You are willing to walk alone rather than walk with someone who requires you to shrink. The mind must be trained daily to return to this foundation. Thoughts will try to pull you back into old patterns. Emotions will tempt you to seek comfort in others rather than strength in yourself. But each time you pause, breathe, and choose self-respect, you strengthen the mind. Over time, this becomes natural. You no longer ask, will they love me? You ask, does this honor who I am? When self-respect becomes your base, love arrives differently. It meets you in clarity, not chaos. It grows in stability, not fear. And even if love does not arrive immediately, you remain whole. You remain whole. because you are no longer waiting to be chosen. You have already chosen yourself. And this is where suffering begins for many people, when love is sought before the mind is grounded. When the inner world is unstable, love is no longer shared freely. It is used as support, as distraction, as escape. A mind without grounding reaches outward to avoid looking inward. It hopes another person will provide what discipline and self-understanding have not yet been built. This hope is heavy. It turns love into pressure. When you seek love without inner grounding, every interaction carries fear. Fear of being abandoned. Fear of not being enough. Fear of silence. The mind becomes alert not to growth but to signs of rejection. A delayed reply becomes a threat. Distance becomes panic. Small misunderstandings become emotional storms. This is not because the other person is wrong, but because the inner foundation is weak. An untrained mind interprets uncertainty as danger. Grounding means you are anchored in yourself. Your emotions may rise and fall, but your identity does not collapse with them. Without this grounding, love becomes a place to hide unresolved pain. You attach not to the person, but to the feeling they give you. And when that feeling changes, as all feelings do, you suffer, you cling harder, you lose clarity. You begin to sacrifice your truth to preserve the connection. This is the beginning of self-betrayal. Many people say they want love, but what they truly want is relief. Relief from loneliness. Relief from self-doubt. Relief from the discomfort of being alone with their thoughts. But love cannot carry this weight. When it is forced to, it breaks. A trained mind understands that discomfort is not the enemy. Avoidance is. If you cannot sit with yourself in silence, you will never be at peace in a relationship. You will constantly need reassurance, proof, control. Inner grounding is developed through presence. Through learning to stay with your emotions without immediately reacting or escaping. When sadness arises, you observe it. When insecurity appears, you examine it. You do not rush to be saved. You do not rush to be distracted. This is difficult, but it is necessary. Without this practice, the mind remains dependent, always reaching outward for stability it has not learned to generate. Ungrounded love creates imbalance. One person carries more emotional weight. One person becomes the center of the other's world. This is not connection. This is imbalance disguised as intimacy. Over time, resentment grows. One feels suffocated. The other feels unappreciated. Both suffer. All because the relationship was asked to provide grounding that should have been built within. Training the mind means recognizing this pattern early. When you notice yourself needing someone to feel calm, needing constant reassurance to feel safe, needing attention to feel worthy, this is not a sign to seek more love. It is a signal to return inward, to strengthen your base, to ask yourself what you are avoiding within. The answer is often uncomfortable, but it is honest. When grounding is present, love feels different. You are not afraid of space. You do not interpret independence as rejection. You allow others to be who they are because you are secure in who you are. You do not rush to fix, control, or cling. You respond rather than react. This creates peace. And peace is attractive because it is rare. Mandarins understand this clearly. Love does not remove suffering when the mind is untrained. It amplifies it. Every unresolved fear becomes visible. Every insecurity finds a mirror. This is why relationships feel so painful for those who have not yet grounded themselves. Love exposes what discipline hides. It reveals where the work is still undone, so do not rush. Do not chase. Do not confuse urgency with destiny. Take the time to build your inner stability. Learn to stand still when emotions move. Learn to breathe when the mind demands attachment. When you do this, you no longer seek love to escape suffering. You allow love to arrive as a companion to strength, not a remedy for weakness. And this is where discipline must enter, because without discipline, the mind will always choose comfort over growth. Comfort feels kind in the moment, but it is dishonest. It promises relief without strength. Inner worth is not built by doing what feels good. It is built by doing what is necessary. A mind that avoids difficulty never learns its own capacity. And a mind that does not know its capacity will forever doubt its value. Monda's discipline is often misunderstood. Many believe it is harsh, restrictive, or joyless. In truth, discipline is an act of respect toward yourself. It is the decision to live in alignment with your highest standards even when emotions resist. Each time you follow through on what you said you would do, you send a clear message to the mind: I can trust myself. This trust becomes inner worth, not imagined worth, not borrowed worth, earned worth. Combiance. When discipline is absent, self-love becomes indulgence. You rest when you should move. You distract when you should reflect. You seek validation when you should train. Over time, the mind becomes weak, not because life is hard, but because it has not been challenged. Then you look outward for someone to make you feel valuable. You want praise, reassurance, attention. But no amount of external affirmation can replace the confidence that comes from self-mastery. A disciplined mind does not depend on motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Discipline remains. It shows up on the days you feel tired, unrecognized, uninspired. And on those days, discipline builds the strongest foundation. Because when you act with integrity, despite resistance, the mind becomes resilient. It learns that emotions are temporary, but principles are permanent. This is why discipline changes how you relate to love. When you have built inner worth through effort, you no longer tolerate what disrespects you. Not because you are rigid, but because you are grounded. You do not stay where your standards are compromised. You do not chase those who are inconsistent. Your calm refusal is not anger. It is self-respect in action. Discipline also teaches patience. You learn that meaningful growth takes time, that not everything needs to happen now. This patience protects you from rushing into relationships out of loneliness or fear. You understand that being alone while building yourself is more honorable than being accompanied while abandoning yourself. This understanding brings peace, not bitterness. The mind must be trained daily through simple practices: waking up on time, moving the body with intention, observing thoughts instead of being ruled by them, speaking truth even when silence is easier. These are small acts, but they compound. Over time, the mind becomes clear, the body becomes strong. The presence becomes steady. People feel this before words are spoken. Chance. When you build inner worth through discipline, love becomes a choice, not a craving. You do not need someone to prove your value. You allow connection to grow slowly, naturally, without pressure. You do not confuse intensity with depth. You understand that real connection respects space, rhythm, and mutual growth. Discomfort will always tempt you to lower your standards. It will tell you to stay where you are tolerated instead of where you are respected. Discipline reminds you of who you are becoming. It keeps you aligned with your path. And when love enters a life built on discipline, it does not distract from growth. It supports it. This is why discipline must come before love. Not because love is unimportant, but because love without inner worth becomes dependency. A disciplined mind stands upright. It does not lean for support. And from this upright position, love can finally be shared freely, without fear, without need, without loss of self. And this is why solitude must be understood correctly. Most people fear being alone because silence removes distraction. In solitude, there is no one to impress, no one to distract you from your thoughts, no one to validate or reject you. What remains is the mind itself. For an untrained mind, this feels like punishment. For a disciplined mind, it is training. Solitude reveals where you are dependent. When there is no audience, no affection, no reassurance, the mind exposes its habits. It shows you where you crave attention, where you fear irrelevance, where you avoid yourself. Many rush into relationships not because they are ready to share life, but because they are uncomfortable facing these inner truths. They fill the space with noise so they do not have to listen. But avoidance delays growth. It does not remove it. To sit alone without escaping is one of the highest forms of self-respect. It says, I am willing to know myself fully. In solitude, you learn how your mind reacts when nothing external holds it together. You observe restlessness, doubt, desire, regret. You do not judge these movements, you study them. This observation builds awareness, and awareness builds freedom. A mind that understands itself is no longer controlled by impulse. Solitude trains emotional independence. When you stop using others to regulate your emotions, you become stable. You no longer need constant interaction to feel alive. You no longer panic in silence. You learn how to generate calm from within. This does not make you cold, it makes you clear. From clarity, genuine warmth can emerge. Many believe solitude means isolation, but this is incorrect. Isolation is avoidance. Solitude is intentional. It is chosen, not imposed. It is a period of strengthening, not withdrawal. Like a warrior training alone before entering the battlefield, solitude prepares you to meet others without losing yourself. You learn your rhythm, you refine your values, you sharpen your presence. Changping Sechpi Sench connections. When solitude is avoided, love becomes a substitute for self-connection. You expect others to entertain you, to stabilize you, to give meaning to your time. This creates pressure. But when you are comfortable alone, love becomes lighter. You enjoy togetherness without fear of losing it. You allow space without suspicion. You respect independence without feeling threatened. Solitude also teaches patience with discomfort. Not every emotion needs to be resolved immediately. Some must be sat with. When you can remain present through unease without seeking escape, you develop inner strength. This strength protects you from rushing into relationships just to avoid loneliness. You choose connection from fullness, not from lack. A mind trained in solitude does not feel empty when alone. It feels complete. And when such a mind enters a relationship, it does not cling, it shares. It does not demand attention. It offers presence. This is the difference between love that drains and love that nourishes. So do not fear being alone. Use it, train in it, let solitude shape you. Because when you no longer need someone to fill the silence, you are finally ready to invite someone into your life without losing yourself. And this is the final transformation that occurs when the mind has been trained to honor itself. Love no longer arrives as chaos or urgency. It comes quietly, without force, without confusion. When you honor yourself, your presence changes. Your decisions become clear. Your boundaries become calm. You are no longer searching for someone to complete you, so you do not grasp when connection appears. You remain centered. Love finds you differently because you meet it differently. You are not driven by fear of loss, so you do not cling. You are not driven by hunger for validation, so you do not perform. You show up as you are, steady and honest. This allows love to grow in truth, not illusion. What is incompatible fades quickly, without drama. What aligns stays, without struggle. Tiamlins, when self-respect is established, you no longer tolerate inconsistency, disrespect, or emotional confusion. Not because you are rigid, but because you are awake. You understand that peace is not negotiable. You choose relationships that support growth, not those that drain energy. This discernment is not coldness. It is wisdom earned through training. Love that meets a self-honoring mind is balanced. There is space to breathe, space to grow, space to remain individuals while walking together. You do not lose yourself to maintain connection, and you do not demand sacrifice to feel secure. Mutual respect becomes the foundation. Communication becomes clear because there is no fear hiding behind words. Even if love does not appear immediately, you remain whole. You do not feel behind. You do not feel incomplete. You trust your path because you are walking it with integrity. This patience protects you from settling. It allows life to unfold naturally, without force. And when love does come, it is not a rescue, it is a meeting of strength. Balance. This is the result of training the mind. You stop chasing what weakens you and start attracting what matches you. You become grounded, disciplined, and clear. From this place, love is no longer a goal. It is a byproduct of self-respect lived daily. May you continue to train your mind with honesty and courage. May you honor yourself without apology. And may the love that enters your life meet you in strength, peace, and clarity. Best wishes.